Good evening and welcome to this virtual presentation of the Key Stage 2 Parent and Carer Reading Workshop. This workshop originally took place on Monday the 18th of October 2021. This virtual presentation is a synopsis of that workshop, which was delivered on Monday the 18th of October. This workshop aims to outline the school's expectations for reading at home. I will endeavour to guide you through the reading materials that your child will be sent home with during their experience of Key Stage 2 through years 3 to 6. This workshop will endeavour to give you some practical ideas to support your child's reading at home. And I would like to stress the importance of working together, both parents and teachers and pupils, to ensure that all children can read at the highest level. Our aims for your child. At Macefield, we want to encourage and nurture a love and passion for reading within all children. As children move from Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 2 and into years 4, 5 and 6, we want the children to become fluent and independent readers. As the children journey through Key Stage 2, we want the children to be able to close read slowly and carefully, but also at the same time be able to skim and scan the text, looking for key words and picking out key features. As children become phonetically fluent readers who can mechanically read, we aim to develop their reading comprehension skills so that they can fully understand what they are reading. We want all children to develop a wide reading repertoire so that they can access a wide variety of texts, both fiction and non-fiction. We want all children to learn about the world through access to a wide range of reading materials and to develop a broad subject-specific vocabulary. To be ready for the rigours of secondary school. At secondary school, the children will be expected to read in every lesson, and the vast majority of learning throughout all the subjects at secondary school is still through the provision of reading materials. The benefits of reading and being a good reader at Key Stage 2. As in Key Stage 1, the more you read, the better reader you become. The more you read, the more you can learn. Reading is still the main way in which children absorb and accumulate knowledge, skills, and understanding. Being a good reader is the basis of all learning across all the subjects. Reading is the key skill that will determine your child's academic progress now and in the future, and the degree to which they will be successful at secondary school, in conjunction with their future economic success. But being a good reader is more than that. Recent research has shown that being a good reader stimulates good mental health and well-being. Reading is one of the essential skills for participation in civic society. To be able to take out a mortgage, open a bank account, to be able to vote in a democratic society. These activities are still based upon largely reading materials. We are teaching your child knowledge, skills, and understanding for jobs that do not at present exist. But the one thing we do know that we are assured about is that reading skills will be fundamental for these new jobs, and being a good reader will be fundamental in being able to learn to do these new jobs. Reading at home with your child. We all want the children to experience success. As children become fluent and cement their phonetical knowledge during year 3, the children will move away from the banded decodable books to becoming an independent reader. In school, the children have access to a wide variety of texts and classroom reading corners in the school library, and those which are directly related to the topics being studied that half term. Some of these will be brought home for your child to read. Children in Key Stage 2 should be encouraged to read a wide repertoire of texts, including learning to follow a recipe, reading high-quality newspapers and magazines, including those available digitally, blogs, websites, and other resources that enhance their hobbies and interests. All children in Key Stage 2 should be exposed to a wide variety of authors, including classic novels, poetry, play scripts, and non-fiction texts, such as encyclopedias. Please use your parental judgment to ensure the support or challenge at home is at the right level. Children in Key Stage 2 should be provided with additional books at home, in addition to those from school, as much as is feasible or possible. You may choose to visit your local library, access online or ebooks, and age-appropriate newspapers and magazines. Reading at home with your child. Your child should read at least 5 times per week. We suggest a minimum of 20 minutes in Year 3, increasing to a minimum of 30 minutes per day by the end of Year 5. Try to build this into your daily routine. Have a set space you can read in. Remember, both helping your child to read the school books and reading a higher level text to them are equally important, even in Year 6. Discuss the key terms shown on your child's school bookmark. The class teachers and their support staff will be discussing these key terms with your child in their guided reading lessons. These key terms are essential in becoming a good reader, and they outline the skills that a good reader has by the time they reach the end of their current year group. On the right-hand side of this slide, I've put some examples of some of the higher level, age-appropriate children's newspapers. There is First News, The Week Junior, which, as its title suggests, is a weekly newspaper suitable for reading from Year 4 onwards, and a monthly magazine called Aquila. This is produced with a Year 5 to Year 8 child in mind. Sharing advanced texts. Even in Year 6, it is important to read your child. This is an opportunity for them to hear stories and language at a higher level than they can read alone. Research has shown that hearing text read aloud is a significant source of vocabulary acquisition. So the more you read with your children, the more words and vocabulary they'll have access to. There are some suggestions on the left-hand side. Classic novels are a particularly good start for an adult to read to a Year 5 or a Year 6 child. That's not to say that those children shouldn't have a go at reading them themselves, but if your child is not at present as confident reader as you would wish them to be, accessing classic novels and reading them to your child will greatly benefit their progress and their development of their reading skills, knowledge, and understanding. Before reading. If it is the first time your child has read the book, examine the front cover and title with them to predict what they think the book might be about. In Key Stage 2, we ask children to focus their predictions on something that should be reasonable, which can be explained using the word because, and which is plausible, makes sense given the context of the book and the blurb and the front cover. Can your child make links to other books they have read with similar themes, characters, authors, or illustrators? Give them time to flick through the book and read the blurb on the back. During reading, ask your child many questions about the characters in the book as you read the story. There is an additional resource with this presentation that has a list of questions pertinent for Key Stage 2. Have your child use his or her finger to follow the direction of the text, top to bottom, left to right. For those children who might find this a particular difficulty, use your child's school bookmark or a ruler to follow the lines of the text. This can be particularly useful in densely worded texts where the font is quite small, or where the language is particularly difficult, for example, in a classic novel. Ask your child about the content they have read, focusing on the 5 W's, or in non-fiction texts, how the object or thing works. Discuss the meaning of any unfamiliar words. These may be words that do not feature commonly in everyday speech, such as scientific vocabulary, or words that they have simply not come across yet. Always use your parental judgment. If your child is tired or feeling unconfident, shift the balance of reading more towards you. It is still important, even in years 5 and 6, to read to your child. This is an opportunity for them to hear stories and language at a higher level than they can read alone. As adults, we do this automatically, whether it's a text message from our partner, or a text message from an older child, or a newspaper, or documents relating to a contract, or our bank account, or our everyday lives, or it's something that we have to read for work. Whenever we read it, we're endeavouring to find the meaning of it. For some children, this is particularly difficult. Once they master phonetically decodable books, they become independent readers and they sound like a good reader. But when you break it down and begin to ask them questions, they cannot tell you anything about what they've read. They're very good mechanically, but they don't understand what they are reading. The way we get around this and the way we develop their reading for meaning is to ask them lots of questions. How is the character feeling at this point in the story, for example? Why are they feeling that way? How do you know? In Key Stage 2 particular, we use emojis and try and ask the children to match these to what the character says or what the character does. So they begin to see the links between the emotions of the characters and how they are expressed in words and actions. And sometimes pupils need help developing their feeling words. For some children, they find it very difficult to talk about how they feel and their emotions. And there's a growing genre and list and book resources out there that can be used to help develop children's understandings of emotions and feelings. In addition to simply discussing the characters' actions and the words that they say, pick up on unusual words or phrases and ask them what they mean. Can you think of another similar word? For example, some children really struggle with phrases where metaphors or similes are used. Her words cut like a knife. Litter bugs will be prosecuted. It was raining cats and dogs. Some children will simply see these statements as just as they are, as this is what the reality is, that it really will literally be raining cats and dogs, not that it is raining heavily. If your child is reading a non-fiction book, help them to use indexes, pictures, graphs, and so on to help negotiate and navigate their way around the text. Ask them a question based on the text which they need to use the contents page or glossary to answer. There is now a fantastic array of non-fiction texts available, and a visit to any good bookshop or library will open up your child's eyes to a whole array of fantastic texts that explain some very complex phenomena, whether that be in geography or science or history. As children get older and journey through Key Stage 2, and the books become more challenging and longer, it's very important that we continue to develop a growth mindset in our children. All readers make mistakes, and this is how we learn. I've probably made mistakes in this presentation, mispronouncing words here and there. But it's really important that we continue to persevere and continue to read as much as we can, and that we really encourage a growth mindset in our children by praising them for recognizing their mistakes and trying to fix them. For example, if we recognize a mistake when we listen to our children read, can we reread the sentence to them and ask them to spot the difference? And ask them to explain to us how ours might make more sense than the way they read it. After reading, discuss with your child what they liked or disliked about the story. Can your child think of another title for the book and why? Did the story have a sad or happy ending? Can your child think of a different ending for the story? Can your child think of another character which he or she might want to add to the story and why? Discuss whether or not the reader, your child, had empathy with any of the characters. And what is the moral or life lesson for the story? There are 3 front covers presented on this slide, and I've chosen them for a very specific reason. A lot of children, particularly in years 4, 5 and 6, are interested in the world out there. They have access to news round, or they become, as they get older in years 5 and 6, interested in what happens in the world, interested in watching the news or reading a newspaper. There are a great number of authors out there now who deal with some of the more challenging issues that are presented in our society today, and they are told through novels and stories that are poignant and appropriate for their age group. In addition to that, there are also an increasing number of children's authors who write from different perspectives from our own. For example, they may be an author from the Muslim tradition, or they may be an author who uses Black characters as the main character in books. The Night Bus by Anjali Kuraif is a particularly fantastic book, which I myself have just read recently. And it's the story of a boy who helps solve a crime with the help of a homeless man. And the book sensitively and age appropriately deals with this complex issue of homelessness within our society. And in fact, all of the author's books deal with issues in our society of people in the margins of society. And I've found that children in Key Stage 2 are very interested in these issues, and that by reading a novel like this, they can be particularly good for their emotional development, for their understanding of the world, and to develop a sense of empathy. Reading to your child. Introduce your children to different types of books. This is particularly important in Key Stage 2. From classic fiction, chapter books, short stories, even joke books, poetry and non-fiction. There's such a wide variety out there that once your child becomes a fluent reader in terms of phonetically decodable books, that there's much more variety out there for them to access. And it's our responsibility as parents and carers to provide that access for them. Read them the book that was your favourite when you were a child. Read slowly and with expression. Try to use different and funny voices for the characters. Children in year 5 and year 6 love this when the teaching staff do this. Follow the words and read the story using the pictures. Talk about what is happening and what might happen next. And in particular, where you're reading a chapter book, always leave the story on a cliffhanger, even if this isn't at the end of the chapter, as this will foster a love and passion for reading in your child, and they'll want to come back and hear more. And finally, lots and lots of positive encouragement. Important things to remember. If your child is in Key Stage 2, they should read at least 5 times per week for between 20 and 30 minutes as a minimum. You should read to your child as well as listening to them, and you should endeavour to read with expression. It's really important, particularly in years 5 and 6, to encourage your child to persevere with a text, to keep going, to keep reading it, to let the story unravel, and to appreciate the complexities that the author has gone into in order to construct this story at length. Question your child as you listen to them read. Have your child explain their understanding of the text. Discuss what makes a good reader with your child using the prompts on your child's school bookmark. And finally, through all this, you will foster a love and a passion for reading within your child. A couple of final thoughts. If parents engage with their children's education, the attainment of the child will increase by 15%, no matter what the social background of the family. If you cannot read, you cannot learn. If your child cannot read, their progress in all other subjects will be curtailed. There is no such thing as reading too much. Thank you for listening to this presentation. I hope you found it useful. Please access the supplementary resources that are available with this presentation through the school's website. Thank you for listening and happy reading.